Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday. We do these weekly lives every Thursday at 12, and we cover a different strategy every week. So, this today we're going to cover something that is maybe you've heard it in the industry, but a lot of you might not know what it is. And it's actually the way I look at it is a sub strategy of novations. Okay, I'm sorry, sub-strategy of a wholesaling, which is called innovation. The great thing about innovation is it can really work in any market. Okay, so even if you work in a market that you feel the sellers want too much for their property, you can't really wholesale it because there is not much of a spread. Or if the property was in a situation with a little bit of work, it could be worth so much more and make more money for the seller and yourself. There are so many scenarios where innovation works really well. And basically, the way I look at it is you're creating this partnership or this almost an assignment, but instead of working with the end buyer, where you're going to assign the contract to the end buyer, you work with the seller, because innovation literally means that you are going to substitute one contract for another. Okay, so when you put the property under contract with the seller, then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have somebody else actually buy this property. But now you strike it a partnership with the seller so he knows. And but instead of assigning, you do an innovation agreement, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So, so the innovation is replacing an old contract for a new one. Okay, so the new party basically gets the responsibility of the property. So how do you do that? So you need to have uh, the original contract between you and the seller, and then you have an innovation agreement, okay, which basically states that you're transferring your contract to somebody else. However, instead of an assignment where you transfer to somebody else and you pretty much wait for them to close the deal, you kind of pull yourself away from it. Under innovation, you get certain rights and to do this. So, for example, you can go ahead and put the property on the market on the MLS. Okay, you can have the buyer actually do some improvements to the property, almost like an owner financing situation, so that the property is more value. So let's say the seller wants 200,000 for the property, but the property is really not quite worth that. Okay, under innovation, you can get the buyer actually step in and almost take care of some of the things so that the seller can get the money and also the buyers will get these benefits as well. So it works really well. So you need to have the contract and you need to have innovation agreement. Okay. So it's like I said, because the property stays in the seller name. It's not like when you do a double closing where you write a contract, but then you find an end buyer, A to B, B to C, and then the end buyer ends up getting the, thinks that you're the seller at the end of the day because you're on the contract that he signs. Innovation, there is this situation where the buyer basically is getting directly from the seller, but you have innovation agreement with the seller so that you have certain rights and responsibilities with this property. So the biggest thing I think that I like Novation is the fact that it gives you freedom to list it on the MLS so that you're going to get a larger pool of buyers, especially in properties that are pretty close to market. It also gives you the right so where the buyer can actually come in and get some things done. So you have like a delayed closing, but then you make more money at the end. So now your question is, why would a seller, or my question would be, right? Why would the seller agree to do something like this? Well, money talks, right? So there are different incentives for the seller to do it this way. Number one, he probably can get more for the property because now you don't have to worry about doing a double closing and getting a profit. Number two, the buyer has an interest because now he gets the property and he can actually get some stuff down the property to increase the value. Number three, now you can strike a partnership with the seller where you give the seller parts of the profits. So let's say he wants 200,000, but because of the increased value for the property, you can sell it to 10 to 20. You can give the seller, another $2,500, another $5,000, another 50%, and so forth. So what I'm seeing is that with Novation, you tend to make more than a $10,000 average that you make on a wholesaling deal. Okay, so it's a really cool way to really do it kind of a different way. So it's a little confusing, you might think, but we do have an innovation agreement with the students. But unfortunately, as any of our contracts and agreements, we have some disclaimers and disclosures, so we can give them only to our group of people that work. But Novation, you tend to make profits anywhere from 20,000, and I've seen as high as $110,000 on one deal. So it's because, like I said, you can market the property and market value and make money off of it. So that's why I think this is a strategy that is really taking a lot of interest, especially in the wholesaling world, because obviously it can be applied really to wholesaling because of the unique situation on how you structure these deals. Okay. So there's not much to say beyond that, but that's how wholesaling is done. Now, some of the tips I want to say about that is be transparent. Okay, so this is a situation where you can be fully transparent. Where, for example, with a double closing, you really don't A to B, B to C. They're two separate transactions, and you really want to keep them separate. Even at closing, you really don't want them to see the profits or stuff in between, especially if your profits are considerable. With this one here, because you do work in a partnership with the seller, you want to be transparent, and that's totally fine, right? And also, double check that, like with double closing and wholesaling right now, certain markets are not okay with it. Like you have to be licensed to be wholesaling, or one of the states like South Carolina says it is illegal to wholesale, although that you can get around with installment agreements, but that will be another session I can teach. But no, with Novation, you also have to check to make sure. Now, it's kind of a newer strategy out there, so there's not really a lot of laws about it. But you just want to make sure as time passes that, because what happens is something sounds good, and then some people go out there and mess it up and screw it up, right, for everybody else. Okay, so yeah. Now, the other thing you want to also keep in mind is that whoever buy. Now, the other good thing about it is that the end buyer, whoever comes in, can go and get a loan. A lot of time when I say with wholesale and special double closings, because an assignment, because you're not on title, right? So if you do a double closing, you're selling the property, you're not on title. So what happens is the lenders are not going to loan to the new buyer unless the buyers go directly to the seller. So you get squeezed out on a double closing. With Novation, you don't. They can go out and get a regular loan, because remember, the seller is actually signing off on that document. You have a Novation agreement, which basically outlines the interest in the partnership with the owner. But at the end of the day, the contract is between the owner and the new party, so they can get a loan, where with double closing, they cannot do that, right? So, and the other problem with assignments is that the buyer has to pay the fee to you, right, for assigning the contract. So with Novation, the money comes technically from the seller side. So you don't have to worry that the buyer comes in the money at closing to pay your assignment fee, because you're going to be compensated from the seller proceeds. So now you see how this actually works more in favor than assignments and double closings. Okay, you can do a lot more with innovation than assignment and double closing, and still basically fulfill the same process, because the goal is for you to flip a property without actually buying it, right? So you're flipping a contract, as they call it. That's what wholesaling is, to be realistic. And so that's what you do with innovation. So for me, it does work better than any of the other strategy under wholesaling, which is like double closing and assignments. Now, with the states where it's illegal, which is the only one right now is South Carolina, that's why you're going to installment contracts. But that's because more of, they have certain things. Now, Novation might work in those states, but you have to be very careful, because how they look at it, your interest in the party, because those states also would technically say, well, you have to be licensed, and you have to, your fee with the seller, your partnership has to be created in a way so you're not looking like you're getting a commission, which you're not. You're getting parts of the profits, but that has to be, pretty strict and tight on states where it's illegal. And right now you have to worry only about South Carolina. And honestly, I would just do an installment agreement in South Carolina to just be safe. Okay, so yeah, I know that I think there was some type of PDF or something that was put out here at the beginning of the week about Novation. So make sure you get that. And um, so yeah, now we're going to go into, like I said, this strategy per se is not a lot that we can talk about. Now, since we have a little bit of time, just because I like to do this, let me tell you what about installment agreements are. And this is really something more for states like South Carolina. But, I personally used installment agreements when I started flipping contracts back in the day, because to me that makes it a little more on the up and up about things, and it's something that you might want to consider using it, especially if you have feelings like, I don't really like to do double closing, I don't like to do any type, I feel like I'm misrepresenting excuse me, what I'm doing. Because with innovation, you have this partnership and agreement with the seller, and you sign an innovation agreement, so it's a little more clean, because you're really, you know putting together the seller with a potential buyer, but you're going to profit. But with installment agreements, I like that because I have a little more control. So basically, when you get the property under contract with the seller, you make an agreement with the seller, right? Basically, kind of like an owner financing, but it's not recorded anywhere. No title is going to go anywhere. And it's called more like a contract for deed that you probably have heard of. A contract for deed is an old instrument that is basically saying, hey, I'm going to make certain things. I'm going to make the payments. I'm going to take care of the property. I'm going to rehab the property, whatever it is you decide. And once this stuff is fulfilled, okay, I'm going to get the deed to the property. Okay, so it's kind of an owner financing situation. Most of the time with a contract for deed, you're probably going to just balloon the payment. So you might have a contract for deed for 1 or 2 years, and then you say at the end of this time, I'm just going to go ahead and cash out the seller. So the good thing about contract for deed is that now, you basically have like control of the property. Now you're not on title, but it will give you the rights, because it's like owner financing, right? It will give you the rights to go ahead and sell the property. Okay. So now, so the contract for deed, it works that way. So you create an installment agreement. So one of the rules with contract deed for being official and for being legal is that you have to have a deposit that you give to the seller, and you have to make at least one payment to be legal, so it doesn't look like you just created it for whatever reason. So it could be $100 deposit, right? And you can make a payment of $100. So it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but it has to be something that is, the down payment is fine. You can do $100, but the payment, let's say, will be, let's say, the first mortgage payment that you make on the property, and it could be principal or interest only. Okay, so you make a payment and then you can do it. Now you can, let's say, you put the property under contract today and you put $100, and then now you have the property under contract for deed. You go out there and make the first payment, let's say, in 2-3 days. Now you have full legal rights to the property. Now you can market the property to sell it. Now, technically, you never buy the property. And, look at it this way: you're probably going to put earnest money down anyway, even on any deal. So the earnest money, you can split it in two. One will be the down payment portion, one will be the first payment portion. But now you have legal rights if anything comes up legally, that you have a contract for deed, which is an owner financing situation, and therefore now you can flip the contract or sell the contract to somebody else. So that's kind of a way to get around it. And what I just told you, by the way, there is an attorney in South Carolina that charges $8,000 to tell you the same thing I told you right now. Now, we also have documents about to do that, installment agreements, as part of our training. So you would not have to pay $8,000 to just get one piece of the puzzle there. We have that and much more in our training, and we're much more affordable than that. So I know I threw a lot of information here today. Was this something new? Have you guys heard of this, what I just talked about? I'm looking at the chat, and team, if you have the chat from the other platform, let me pull up my messaging channel with the team. So if you see anything else coming through, let me know. But I'm going to start giving some answers here, and then we're going to cover raffle. So make sure you stay in. And I see the person that's getting the raffle. I see the name, so you're on there. I see it on the chat. So make sure you stick around. Let me see. Melissa says, this is new for me. Let's see. Ruth says, great. Hey, Ruth, great idea, but I have not tried yet. The double closing is so confusing to me. Okay, it shouldn't be confusing. The double closing, you basically put, it's A B to B to C, right? So you put a property under contract A to B, and then the B to C is where you sell the contract, but you never close. So Teresa, I know you're in the master class, so make sure you watch the Tuesday yesterday. Elizabeth really explained very clearly how double closing work, and she had a slide and a diagram on the screen. Let's see. So it's not innovation, Teresa, it's Novation, Novation, Novation. Can do away with a broker? Well, yes and no. It depends if you want to list it on the MLS. Obviously, there has to be an agent. If you are an agent, you can do it yourself. But yeah, it's up to you. But one of the benefits of doing innovation is that you can list it on the MLS. Therefore, there has to be some type of agent involved. Even if you're an agent, obviously you can do it yourself. Okay, so let me go ahead and share who the raffle winner is. The raffle winner today. Well, first of all, let me share the raffle. I think that's pretty cool. So it's team. You have to write this bigger. I can't read the small print here. And see. It's a little reminders calendar. It's a motivational desk calendar. And then you get I like that alarm clock. It looks like a sun. Oh, that's so cool. Okay. I need to get one. So I like that. It puts you in a good mood every morning. It's much better than Alexa, right? So the raffle winner is Teresa Wood. So Teresa Wood, if you can email to questions@realestateinvestingwomen.com. Again, that's questions@realestateinvestingwomen.com. You have 1 week to email them to get your prize. And I think that is a really good prize. I love that sun alarm clock. Great. Okay, there is another question from, I don't know what channel is this, but and the name, I don't think that's your name, but you understand. The buyer can do work ahead of time, but seller gets the money needed. Is this correct? Yes. So, let's say that especially with properties that are priced at top of the market, or they will need to get the value that the seller need, and probably get even more if some of the work can be done. Yes, it can be worked out where the innovation can close and be basically fully executed like 3 months from now, almost like a contract for deed, right? And then the buyer can step in and get the work done and bring up the value to the property. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so one of the things I want to say is we are in the middle of masterclass week. Okay, so it's doing amazing. Love the interaction. Several here are in the masterclass, so thank you for following me around today. We spent like almost 2 hours this morning, and I will spend another 30 minutes or so. So I want to make sure that we invite everybody here. Now we have a kickoff call. I believe it's next week to get everybody started in the program. So we have a lot of great things in store for you. We also have, I'm in the middle of re-recording the whole rental program. So that's gonna be, I'm halfway through. Every week on Tuesdays, I re-record something in the training. I spent over a month re-recording all the wholesaling. Just finished that around Christmas. And then the month before, I did a whole new, brand new fix and flips. And now I'm doing the buy and hold the rentals. So so the students come on board every Tuesday, listening to me re-record everything, so they get the information just off the press. So we have a lot of things going there that is good stuff, and then we have office hours where we started that recently too. Office hours basically every Wednesday you can come and work with us for a couple of hours online, where we're there, me and Liz, to so you work on whatever you're doing, making phone calls, work on your business, but then as situations arise, you can ask us questions right there and then. So we're there. It's like going into a classroom, right? And you do the work, but the teacher is there to help you with any questions that you have. So we just installed that recently. So we have got, and then on Wednesday night, we have Maria, who analyzes deals for everybody. So if you have a deal that you want to bring in as a case study, you submit that information and she will do it live in front of the whole class so everybody can learn. So we're doing great things. And then on Thursday, we have training for Airbnbs. So every day of the week, we have a different flavor on things. But the main thing is that we are a small enough community to give you the personalized attention, but big enough where you have a community with a ton of interaction. So it's one of those things that it is. And honestly, I feel like the coaching arena in general, but especially for real estate, you really want to be in a group where you feel like somebody follows you and helps you and knows you. You're never going to be a number with us. We always going to know who you are, and and any help you need from us. So that's something that goes a long way compared to a lot of the communities out there, where I see hundreds or thousands of people into a community, and when you get on these calls, you either you never get your question answered, or second, they don't really know because it's a different coach and they don't care about your situation. One of the things about us, we have 5 or 6 coaches, but we're very much about hands-on, and we know every person. We actually meet among us and see how we can do and improve things all the time as coaches, because we really want to be in a community. And most of the coaches, besides me, Liz, and Maria, all the other coaches have been previous students. So they were where you were not too long ago. So with that said, team, if you want to, I see that you click the link to book the call. So when you book the call, you're going to meet with our team member, Brianna, and she's going to basically take an application and to see if we are a fit to work together. Like I said, we're not interested to have a ton of women in our community, but we want to have the right women. And so right now we decided to take more on application. And so if you are committed, we basically want women that want to do this, that are serious about it, that they really feel like, their reason they want to do this, their why is stronger than anything, and they're committed. So that's why, because when people ask me, how many of you ladies are successful in this business, my answer has always been, if I do what I tell them, is 100%. So I want 100% success with the women in our community. This is something I really decided to do here this year. And so we are choosing women that are 100% coachable, number one, that will listen, that will do the work, that are committed, that are persistent, okay, that they take personal responsibility and no excuses. Okay. So if you are that woman, go ahead and take the application, and then you will talk to Brianna, and she can answer any questions for you. And then if everything looks good, then you will talk probably personally with Maria, the coach, and she can help you to see what it will look like for you. And then if you feel like this is a fit, great. We would love to have you in the community. So book the link there. Now, because of the masterclass, we made some special offer today. And if you join right now, I'm going to give you a customized game plan. So if you book the call today for the next kickoff call, but it's only for yesterday and today, I'm not going to offer it tomorrow, is a personalized game plan for anybody. So it doesn't matter if you want to do wholesaling, buy and hold, fix and flip, you will get personalized game plan if you book today. Today's the last day where we're going to offer that, which is Thursday, February 6th, right? Yeah. Okay. So great. Well, hopefully I gave you, well, so what's your biggest takeaways with Novations? What is the biggest thing that that came to you with Novations? Is that kind of sparking some ideas or interest in that? Just go ahead and let me know if it's gonna be, and what's the biggest takeaway. Now, when you get into the training, if you become a student, we have a whole training just around novations, because it's been one of the most popular strategies for us, So I think Liz shared with you, a lot of you, I've seen one of the checks or a masterclass, I'm sure I'll share it tomorrow, for $122,000 that she did the end of November. That was innovation. We have students, one of the students made $36,000, and our students made in the 20s, and those are novations. So with Novation, you do unusual higher checks than you would do with a regular double closing or assignment. So I want to just state that. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. See, I'm sorry. Sunshine. I don't know if that's your name, but I see the question. So, how would I make sure that the buyer stays committed and accountable for the renovation of the property? Well, that's part of the agreement that you have to make with the buyer. So that's why, you know, it's very important that this novation agreement is signed, and now, and the buyer will also make a deposit. Okay. Now, with any real estate wholesale deals that I do, anytime I do a double closing or a novation or an assignment or an installment agreement, which is the four main strategies under wholesaling, by the way, I always ask for a deposit from the buyer. And we're not talking, a couple $100. I want to be at least $5,000, $10,000. So it has to be substantial deposit for them to be committed. But that's how you do it. And then you also want to give that to a third party, like a title company or an attorney, not the seller or yourself. Okay, so that there is a third party. Okay, great. Okay, so thanks for being here. Like I said, the main thing to do is, don't worry about too much. Get the property under contract for wholesaling. Okay. And then know that there are four different possibilities. There is a double closing, an assignment, innovation, and installment. Most of you are probably not going to use installment, although I personally like it. Most of you probably use a combination of the other three. Okay. So, but don't worry too much about that. Right now, just get property under contract as a wholesaling deal, and then you can look more and study more about that. And if you are in our community, obviously we're there to help you out. Okay, so don't let this stop you because you worry about how you're going to do it on the back end. Just get the property under contract. Everything else will fall into place. Um, yeah. So great. Well, thank everybody for being here. Hopefully this was good information. Like I said, for everybody else that don't know us, we do these type of trainings live every Thursday at 12 noon on a strategy where we see a lot of interest. That's why my team said, talk about the strategy today. And yeah, Lee, you have to use the installment in South Carolina, but you can do it. I have students in South Carolina and they do totally fine. Great. Thanks everybody for being there. And if you're in the masterclass, I'll see you tomorrow. And for everybody else, go ahead and book the call and I'll talk to you.